Here's a trick for those that are new to a fandom or not sure who to interact with when they first start making content. Think of the most toxic pairing that you can think of. I mean, the worst of the worst. It can be antagonist versus protagonist, or just total opposites by fandom standards. When you find the creator of these pieces, they will be the most chill in the fandom. Guaranteed. The Ignoct reverse bang was my first community project that I was a part of. I confess that I wasn't sure how it would go since I'm practically new to the fandom, but I'm glad I decided to try it out. The bang was largely an experiment to see if people would take the time to read my other personal works, whether it was to see that particular pairing again, see if my other works were appealing, or maybe if my writing style was of interest to them. All three of these situations have happened based on my statistics from AO3 after the Ignoct posting. In the same token, I have also noticed that my block list went up as well, which means, well, I'm not sure what that means exactly. If I'm honest with you, perhaps my material bothers some people, and that is fair. What I write isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but at the same time, I do have a certain way with handling heavy topics for those that know me. If I'm honest with myself, my reasoning for trying a big bang was to branch out of the community. I find that I am a niche writer, both in terms of the ships that I like and my content. Usually it deals with heavy subject matter because while I do get entertainment and enjoyment from writing these novels and short stories, it would be a lie to say that my experiences are not reflected in the stories that I tell. That isn't to say that I'm some emo edgelord craving trollless attention, but I have learned to disassociate myself from the characters, and this includes the ones that I like, to tell a good story. There are several trends that those that read my writing will also notice, and having stakes in a story is one of the things that will get highlighted in some way or another. There are more, of course, but I like to leave that to the reader to find out. That being said, big bangs are a lot more involved than I originally thought they would be, and this does require some considerations that I will keep in the back of my mind going forward. The Ignoct Big Bang had me work with 3 different artists under 3 different circumstances. One of the stories fell through while the other 2 resulted in polished stories. They all presented different obstacles that I needed to overcome. The first and most important thing is the communication factor. Whether a story is going to be 5k or 50k words, I need to be able to have some type of rapport with my partner. In this case, it was the artist. They aren't just there to complete their part of the story, nor do I consider the story and the accompanying artwork separate entities. That isn't how it should be, and it is a collaborative effort by both parties, and I attribute this to one of the reasons why my first pitch hit didn't work out. You can't just say, oh, here's a picture, do whatever you want with it, and leave me to my devices. I need a push, an idea, just a prompt to give me the creative juices to flow. Thankfully, my partner for my original story, A Captive Heart, had something unique and ready from the start. Shay Parfai's pitch is one that spoke to me for several reasons, but the biggest one is that it had Arden in it. And Shay was perfectly okay with me exploring some relationship dynamics that I hadn't seen before. Shay was also very easygoing and gave me the honest advice when I got stuck. This type of relationship was exactly what I wanted, and adding Tifa's dolphin into the mix did wonders since she helped me iron out the details of a mess with the first draft. For the last story that I did called Salve Regina, it was a pitch hitter assignment, and I confess that I probably gave myself a heart attack thinking that I would have to finish these 2 stories in June, but in reality they were both due in July. Thank you, dyslexia. Either way, Memento Memorial was just as sweet as understanding as Shay was, and I did enjoy working with the basis of the story. What caught my eye was the details used for the traditional media. In this piece, I wanted to do the story justice for that. Unfortunately, because this was a last-minute story, I didn't get to spend as much time as I should have, but the story is readable and I am happy with how it turned out. Having said that, there are some pros and cons to consider when I decide to do another bang or a fanzine or host my own, because damn if I have been trying to find a good Arden or Niflheim one. So, For the personal strengths, there is a good thing about big bangs. First, you have multiple people to bounce ideas off of. Since I consider myself a niche writer, I don't get a lot of interaction with the majority of the fandom under normal circumstances. This has nothing to do with my lack of people skills, but simply for the fact that I refuse to cause any discourse about the characters and ships that I like. Even the Ardians are special within their own right, and even within this group, we have different ways which we pay homage to our Trash Lord, and I'm saying that as a positive. Now, as far as the weaknesses of the design go, there is the time management factor. I thought I had given myself enough time to work through these stories, but I fear that I didn't consider the in real life aspect either. When I was working 40-hour weeks, my 3 days off would be the only days that I would bother picking up writing. Coupled with in real life obligations and just some self-care, it often left me maybe only a few hours a week to pump out a decent chapter. Admittedly, the story could have certainly been shorter, but this leads into another issue that I have as a writer. About the all, not the one. I don't know how else to explain this any other way in saying that I expect each character that I put into a story to change on some fundamental level. And I know this just should be a given, but the issue is juggling this with the sheer amount of characters that Final Fantasy XV has to offer. For a Captive Heart especially, I knew that the story would be lengthy because of the amount of characters that I use within it. One thing that I didn't consider was that the focus needed to be specifically on one pairing. This might be silly to say, but this goes hand in hand with how I often use the camera and how it focuses on other aspects of the characters as they develop in the story. It was tricky for me to decide how to display the passage of 10 years and the amount of character development that happened, not with just Ignis and Noctis, but the other characters too. I have no doubt that I have been able to write about Biggs, Wedge, Aranea, and fill in a little bit more with Arden and Titus. The story would have easily shot over to 60k words, but I had to stop myself. So my final thoughts on the bangs are this. Committing to a bang or Zine takes a lot of time. These are something that I only plan to do maybe a few times a year. When I do, it needs to be around characters that I enjoy and have a bond with. Characters like Arden or Versatile won't take nearly as long to write about as, let's say, Gladio. A successful bang or Zine experience is one where both creators and their editors communicate on the projects. I'm not one to just complete my task without any feedback, as it's your project too and we should both enjoy it. I need time to put the story together. My average for a short story is around 5k words, and usually that takes a few weeks to write about when I consider my in real life obligations. I can't put together a story in a week's time and won't stress myself out about doing it. Now, as we are done, I'd love to hear anyone else's experience regarding Zines or bangs. My goal is to host my own Arden Niflheim one in a year or two, but I need some experience with modding first, so that's one of my resolutions for next year. I would also like to extend a special thank you to TitansAteMySoul for hosting this event, Styx for being an awesome mod, Tifa's Dolphin for being a great and fair editor, and Shea Parfait and Memento Morio for giving me the opportunity to write for their stories. Oh, and if you're looking for the deleted scenes for A Captive Heart, please look at the description for the Tumblr link. I didn't advertise it as much as I should have, but the original story hit 35k words before my editor and I decided to get rid of some unimportant and distracting scenes. Worry not, just because they were nixed, they will show up in the sequel. Sadly, because I didn't get to spend much time with Salve Regina, it didn't have any edited scenes. Alright guys, so that's it. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.